It's a Thursday, which means for the next 2 weeks we have a brand new online time trial to go ahead and tackle, this time featuring the iconic Prancing Horse. But before we do get into this video, I'm trying to get this channel to 60,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you do want to stay up to date with everything Gran Turismo 7 related, and of course motorsport gaming related, then feel free to leave a like, subscribe and turn your notifications on. Anyway, let's get to it. So here is an overview of the new lap time challenge. This one takes place at Interlagos and features the iconic Ferrari GTO from 1984, which funnily enough you cannot go ahead and buy from the Legends car dealership at the time of this time trial going up. Next up is the finer details. Top 3% is gold, top 5% is silver, and top 10% is bronze. Of course, the track we're racing at is Interlagos in Brazil, and the entry period will end on the 17th of July 2025. Usable tyres are sports mediums, wide body prohibited, and nitrous and overtake prohibited. Specified car is of course the Ferrari GTO from 1984. BOP is set to mid-speed, and you can use both a garage car and event specified car for this one. Car settings are specified, track limits are normal, and both shortcut and wall collision will invalidate your lap time. So next up is going to be tips and tricks. Now of course this is more generalised tips and tricks to help you get through this online time trial. And to begin with, as always, turn those damn assists off. They are not going to help you, they're only going to hinder you, especially in a car such as the GTO, which really doesn't react well to any assist whatsoever. Really the only thing you should be keeping on is ABS set to default. Apart from that, such as traction and counter steer, you want them all completely off. Next up is manual transmission. This is absolutely crucial for getting the most out of your Ferrari GTO. It can be a little bit of a sketchy car, however having total control over both upshifts and downshifts are really going to help you get the most out of this thing. And again, it's crucial to be in the right gear in each and every corner. This way you can get the best drive in and the best drive out of every single corner around Interlagos. Of course, the next great thing about running a manual transmission is total car control. Of course, with the Ferrari GTO being a little bit on the older side these days, it does have a tendency, like most older cars in GT7, to try and kick that rear end out. And of course, thanks to running a manual transmission, you can use short shifting to reduce this almost entirely. Whilst it still may at times, it really does reduce the amount of times you're going to spend sideways, which leads to better corner exit and of course more traction overall. So after you've got your assist set correctly, the next thing you want to do before you even enter is load up one of the replays. This way you can see what the current fastest time in the world is doing, exactly what gears they're in, and of course their braking points. The next thing when you actually get into the event is to go over back to the global rankings and load up one of the current fastest ghosts. This way, once again, you can just follow it around and see what line they take. After doing all those, it'll be time to head out on the track and get behind the wheel of this legendary Ferrari GTO. So let's talk about the car then. So of course next up is going to be the car itself. Now when it comes to Ferraris, I honestly feel that the Ferrari GTO from 1984 is right up there as one of the most iconic Ferrari designs of all time. But what exactly is it like to drive? Well dear viewer, I'm very glad you asked. This is a 2.9 litre V8 which is twin turbocharged. That is absolutely ridiculous all the way back in 1984. It puts out a whopping 393 brake horsepower, which again is a serious amount for that time period. It's rear wheel drive, features a 5-speed manual transmission, and is capable of a total top speed of 196 miles per hour. Now it does weigh 1160 kilograms before the BOP is applied. However, it still remains incredibly lightweight even with the mid-speed BOP on. Now as for the car itself, it's mid-engined and an absolute monster for it. Again, like a lot of cars in Gran Turismo 7 around this time period which are mid-engined, this thing is just no different. However, I would say once you start learning the strengths of this car rather than its weaknesses, it becomes a much better overall car to drive. Really the only thing that I would say is typically weak of this car are the brakes themselves, which unfortunately do a pretty poor job of actually slowing this car down from some very high top speeds. Now the main places I found the brakes to be a little bit on the weaker side are of course across the start finish line when you go into turn 1. That is a very heavy braking zone, and unfortunately it can be a bit of a nightmare to get your head around where exactly to brake with the GTO. The next corner is of course turn 4, where once again you're coming from high speed and trying to bleed off as much speed as possible. Unfortunately again it can be a little bit awkward with your braking marker. However, if there was one area I do have to compliment the GTO, is that it does have great handling when driven right. Yes, it's a bit of an older car, and typically in Gran Turismo 7 they're not the easiest thing to actually get to grips with, but I would say the GTO is much better than a lot of other cars around this time period. And I would say once you start doing the short shifting and of course turning those assists off so it's not bogging down constantly, it really does have some fantastic handling characteristics. Overall, credit to Ferrari for this one. So of course, in conclusion, yes, the GTO can be a bit of a handful at first, however it's a typical high-powered 1980s supercar, which once you wrap your head around is definitely one of the better around that time period in the entirety of Gran Turismo 7. Next up is the lap itself. This is going to be my initial fastest lap. Again, there will be time to improve here over the next 2 weeks. As for the current time of recording, it was good enough for a 142.345 and 18th overall in the world. So let's get to it then. I will slow down the sections of the video where you need to pay careful attention. Now I am coming off the back of my first fastest lap, and then I will get to my current fastest lap on this lap now. So the first thing you're doing is looking for the 150 board. You want to brake as hard as possible and bleed off as much speed as possible. Now what you want to do is begin going down the gears gently, get yourself into first and turn the car in. Unfortunately I slightly overshot it, but then as you can see I use a bit of short shifting to maintain traction and then once again cut those curbs. There is plenty of time to make up if you're chopping turn 1 and turn 2. And it's no different with this long sweeping left-hander either. Once again, we're going to short shift into third. The rear end may start kicking out, but again, you should be able to control it before going up over to the right-hand side and running plenty of the curb on exit. Now we're going to go all the way down the straight, and here comes the next awkward braking section. Once again, look for the 150 board and get those anchors on as hard as possible. Now just after the 50 board, you're going to be turning into the left-hander. Once again, get the apex, run the curb slightly and aim yourself out wide. Now just be aware this curb on the outside here can cause you to slip the rear end out, so just be aware of that. Anyway, full power on exit all the way up the hill and get ready for your next awkward braking zone. So between the 150 board, you want to be braking, get the car down into second gear and then lift off of everything. Let the car rotate and bring the power back in slightly before short shifting up to third gear and running out nice and wide onto this curb here. Now once the entire car is up on the curb, you're pretty much going to be braking once again, this time into second gear and then dipping into first for a slight moment before short shifting up to second again. Put the power down and then once again use your brakes and throttle control through here. Bring the power in gently and then full power on exit all the way up the next section. Again, run out wide into first gear, clip the apex and then once again short shift into second. Now this is the section where I'm losing most of my time. I just can't get it quite perfect, so I go from second to third gear, bring it out nice and wide, and then as soon as the curb ends I'm then going to brake hard, get the car into second gear, into first slightly, and then once again hit the apex and short shift up to second. At that point aim nice and wide, just narrowly avoiding that curb as it will sort of suck the car in, so I recommend getting as close to it as possible but not running it, and then full power all the way to the start finish line. If you angle it correctly, you shouldn't need to lift off on the left hander there. It should be full power all the way to the finish, and again if you can, feel free to just chop off a little bit there on the left hand side. The main reason I didn't that time around was because I actually thought I wasn't going to get a fastest lap, but it turns out I did. Anyway, there we go for another weekly online lap time challenge. I genuinely really enjoyed this one. Honestly, getting behind the wheel of a classic Ferrari is just never boring to me. And of course, I absolutely love Interlagos. I genuinely don't know anybody that doesn't like this track. So for me, it's a pretty solid car and track combination this time around. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. A huge thank you to all of my channel members listed on screen now. Thank you for your continued support. It absolutely means the world to me. And a huge thank you to you guys watching this wherever you may be. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day or night, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care guys. Peace.